This individual skill was multiplied by their unbelievable operational mobility and logistical genius. Mongol armies could travel up to 100 miles in a single day, a speed unmatched by any contemporary force. They achieved this through a sophisticated system. Each warrior traveled with a string of 3 to 5 spare horses, allowing him to switch mounts regularly and preserve their strength. They carried minimal heavy supplies, living efficiently off the land and their herds. A Mongol army could survive for weeks on a diet of dried milk curd, cured meat, and mare's milk, and they were experts at bleeding their horses for nourishment in dire situations. This meant they could appear as if from nowhere, strike, and vanish before a slower, supply-train-dependent enemy could even react or bring them to a pitched battle on unfavorable terms. On the battlefield, their tactics were brutal, choreographed extensions of their nomadic lifestyle. They perfected the feigned retreat, where light cavalry units would attack and then pretend to panic and flee in disarray. When enemy forces inevitably broke ranks to chase them, they would be led directly into a carefully prepared ambush of waiting heavy cavalry and a storm of arrows. Another hallmark was the widespread use of encirclement, using their speed to surround foes on all sides, creating panic and cutting off supply lines. These complex division-level maneuvers were rehearsed during the annual Nurj, or Great Hunt, a massive, coordinated drill involving thousands of participants that functioned as their primary military training, teaching communication, discipline, and unit cohesion. Their warfare was also profoundly psychological. The Mongols used terror as a deliberate and calculated weapon of policy. If a city resisted and was then captured, the inhabitants were often slaughtered entirely, with grim monuments like pyramids of skulls left as a stark warning to the next city. Historical chronicles, like those of the Persian historian Juvayni, record mountains of bones at sites like Nishapur. This created a powerful incentive for immediate surrender, allowing the Mongols to subjugate vast regions without having to fight every single battle. It was a brutal form of efficiency. Conversely, cities that surrendered immediately were often spared and integrated, which further incentivized capitulation and spread demoralizing stories ahead of the advancing armies. They were also masters of intelligence, long before an invasion began. An extensive network of spies, Muslim traders, and scouts infiltrated target regions, gathering detailed information on politics, internal divisions, terrain, and defenses. Commanders thus went into campaigns with superior knowledge, able to exploit weaknesses and plan with devastating foresight. For instance, before invading Europe, Subutai spent years gathering intelligence through merchants and emissaries, learning about the political fissures between the Russian principalities and the kingdoms of Hungary and Poland, which he then exploited by defeating them in detail rather than facing a unified force. Perhaps their most underrated strength was a ruthless pragmatism and adaptability. The Mongols had no cultural arrogance. When they encountered a superior technology or skill, they immediately absorbed it. Faced with walled cities, a major weakness for a pure cavalry army, they conscripted the finest engineers from conquered Chinese and Persian territories to build massive siege engines, creating a dedicated corps for breaching walls. They employed traction trebuchets, counterweight trebuchets, and even early gunpowder bombs and rockets from Chinese designs. At the Siege of Xiangyang, a siege that lasted from 1268 to 1273, it was ultimately Persian-designed counterweight trebuchets that finally crushed the city's defenses. This meritocratic pragmatism extended to governance and administration. They actively recruited and promoted talent from any conquered people. Persian administrators, Chinese generals, Uyghur scribes, based solely on ability. A notable example was Yelu Chukai, a Khitan statesman who served Genghis Khan and his successor, convincing them to tax conquered Chinese lands rather than destroy them, vastly increasing Mongol revenue. This allowed them to effectively manage their sprawling empire, adopting the best practices in law, communication, via the famed Yam courier network, and taxation from every civilization they touched. The Yam system, with its relay stations spaced a day's journey apart, allowed messages to travel up to 200 miles per day, an unprecedented speed of communication for the time. Their unparalleled success stemmed from a complete system of conquest, perfected by disciplined leadership. Genghis Khan unified the steppe tribes under a meritocratic code, creating a skilled command structure This allowed genius strategists like Subutai to coordinate armies across vast distances with lethal precision, as seen in the 1241 European campaign where two armies crushed Poland and Hungary in a simultaneous pincer movement. Ultimately, the Mongols were a relentless military machine. They masterfully blended extreme mobility, adaptive tactics, psychological terror, and a hunger for foreign innovation. Their legacy is a powerful lesson in how ruthless efficiency and systemic innovation can overcome any obstacle. For more insights into history's greatest empires, subscribe to the channel.